the impression that they had so much control over me that the job that they gave me was more important than my child. And it was kind of in that car that day, man, I made a decision, Big A. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go find another way. I've got to find something where I don't have to ask permission to be there for my kids. I can be home for my wife. I can make enough money to support my family, and I'm not going to give up my freedom.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to View from the Top podcast, where we help family first owners and entrepreneurs get through the valleys and up the mountain to their very own view from the top. We're so glad you're listening today. My name is Wally Wallenbeck, and I've got Big A Walker with me. Big A, how you doing today, man?
I'm sad.
Oh,
I'm just sad, Wally. Robin and I was talking about it at dinner last night. Football's done, like it's behind us.
What are you talking about?
This is a time of year that is just so difficult for us because we watch Saturday, all day Sunday, Sunday night, Monday night, Thursday night football. And this time of year, there's no football. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
That's like your date thing for you and Robin, right? You guys are like,
it is. It's like
date
day, date night, date day, date night, date night, date night. So
that's a lot of dating. That's a lot of dating going on right
we
there.
get popcorn, and Robin takes a team. I take a team. Robin, she took one of my teams the other day. We got in a fight about it, but she said, you can't have it. I chose first. And so there's this bantering going on. We've even got these, the penalty flags. Like I got the yellow one and the red one, and we bought those. And you're like, are you kidding me? No, because when I see a bad play, I throw the flag. And she's like, no, and she'll counteract it. But I'm sad because there's no football. So I guess I'm going to have to watch replays. I don't like to watch replay football. I'm not going to do
sorry.
that.
How do you guys choose? Who gets to pick first?
What?
You guys take turns picking the...
Yeah, we do. We alternate between games.
Right.
And that way it keeps the confusion down. Otherwise, I'd pick all the good teams. Robin actually knows as much or more probably about football. She was watching the Titans one day. She goes, you know, the average weight of the offensive line is 309 pounds. I was like, where did you see that? And she's like, well, I keep up with it. Like I know. And now she knows where they're from, what college they come from. And I'm like,
that's good.
I'm glad you guys coverage.
I'm glad you guys do that as a couple. That's pretty awesome.
You know what? I'm making a lot of guys really envious right now because I got a wife that likes to watch football more than I do. And I love to watch it. Man, what's been going on with you?
Yeah, man, good things. Life's been pretty good. I mean, stressful at times. Like everybody else, we got big projects working on, and a little bit ago we had a big event that we did. Wasn't big in terms of numbers of people. It was big in terms of influence and impact, and who was there, and what we were trying to accomplish. And it was called the Summit, and that was really something, man.
That was fun.
Oh my gosh, like
it was deep, wasn't it? I mean, my gosh. I mean, we right out of the gate, it got deep. You know, we started asking for situations that people were involved in, and they just dove in head first. And I'm like, man, dude, you didn't wade in the shallow end. You went straight off the high dive into the deep, and we really helped resolve some problems. That was fun.
Yeah, it was good.
It was fun. You know, what I saw, though, that was kind of evident, that story after story that we heard at the summit, at one point in time in their life, there was this upper limit challenge. They were like, they didn't know if they could do it. They didn't know, am I good enough? Am I smart enough? Is anybody going to buy it? Is anybody going to come? And Wally, I remember when I started my first business, I didn't go to college. I graduated from high school and then went straight into the workforce, opened my first business. And I remember thinking what a derelict I was. I was like, I am just not qualified and capable of doing this. And Dan Miller really helped pull me through that. When we were in the Eagles together, I used to bring this up, and he said, man, I'm really tired of hearing that. I said, what are you talking about? He said, you've been talking about not having this diploma hanging on your wall from some big, university, and you could teach a lot of those classes. And it didn't feel that way. It felt like I needed the credentials, in order to say that I'm qualified to do that. And we even get into it today in the interview with Shane, where he was talking about people need to overcome this upper limit challenge that we have. And I don't know if you've ever struggled with that or not. Have you?
Yeah, for sure. Being younger and starting off in business, I think I was, trying to sell some software that I had developed. And man, I just looked like a young punk. walking in there trying to do my thing. And I was a young punk, but I let that get in the way of confidence walking in that room with, what I think a lot of people as business owners, a lot of people listening today, right? We have products or services that maybe we've developed ourselves, or there's some unique spin on them that we have that we know makes a difference in the world in some way. And yet we just let those things that, for me, it was my age. I let that get in the way of being able to be confident about what I was selling. And it holds you back. And those things hold us back.
Yeah, Carol Dweck does a really good job in her book, Mindset, talking about having that growth mindset over a fixed mindset. And Shane Sams is going to bring it strong today. Man, you talking about a bundle of energy. This guy, you're going to be excited to hear what he's done with Flip Lifestyles. He takes us on a journey that tells us how this originated originally. And it is unbelievable, his story. So hold on, buckle up, because he is no lack of energy at all. Shane's a good guy. He's a good friend. He's been around for a long, long time. Hope you enjoy this. We're going to bring him in now and let Shane Sams share his story.
All right, let's get him in.
Man, listen, this is like an honor for me today. Like, I got one of my heroes and mentors on with us. Shane, how's it going, buddy?
You can't call me a mentor. You're my mentor, man. You can't do that.
Gosh,
what are you talking about, son?
I look up to you in so many ways, in so many different venues. Jocelyn doing good?
She's doing good, man. The feeling's always mutual, man. Anytime I can hang out and talk to you guys. Jocelyn, actually, I got in here. She's in a finances meeting right now. So she's doing the real hard work in our business. She's talking about numbers and stuff. So I get to come in here and hang out and have fun. So
and do the
she's
do the
doing
fun
great
stuff and do the fun stuff. Man, your kids are growing up too. I've seen these pictures you post, and I think they're measuring your son's foot and charging you by the inch now for these shoes.
Dude,
right?
I'm telling you,
my gosh, he is growing like a weed.
Listen, we were at the bus stop earlier today. I pick my kids up almost every day from school, and so I picked him up, not the bus stop, but the pickup line. And I was sitting there, and Isaac got in the car, and his sister wouldn't come to the car. I texted her, and I was about to kill her. And I said, go get your sister. And he goes, I don't want to go back in there. It's embarrassing having to go back in there. And Lord, son, I about to killed him. And then we got back home, and I was like, dude, when I tell you to go do something, I need you to do it the first time. And of course, we started bantering and laughing and having a good time, kind of kidding about it. And he, he's getting to that age where he's starting to step up like a young lion a little bit to the old lion, right? Mm-hmm. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and we started doing the little wrestling a little bit. And I grabbed him, and I kind of moved him over like I normally do. And I said, you ain't that guy, boy. And boy, he pushed back, and I thought, oh, you might be that guy today. You might be that guy today.
He's getting big.
He's getting big, man. He's a grown man, dude. It's a 14-year-old grown man. But you know what? My dad always told me, every age is the funnest age, and I believe that. I love watching him grow up, man. It's pretty amazing.
Your little girl's the same way, though, man. I see these cheerleading championships that she's winning and going all over the country doing, and you got a beautiful family, man. You should be
appreciate
proud.
it, dude. Appreciate that, man. We're very blessed. I don't take any credit for it. It's God's grace. I don't know what He's doing through us, through them, but man, they've not been too much trouble, man. It's pretty good.
You better get the ice cleaned out of that boat up there. I'm coming up to do some fishing in the spring.
Man, I got an ice storm coming at me right now, dude.
You do.
Yeah, man. I got a little. Anna Joe's got a friend here, and we're going to take her home quick, so she might get trapped here for a couple of days.
Cover up that boat out there.
I will, man.
I'm going to come do some fishing here pretty soon. I really enjoyed. Wally and I hung out with you this past week, and we really enjoyed hanging out with you. We had the summit. And you came, a roundtable discussion, some really cool guys, and we really got to dive deep. And during that, it dawned on me that you haven't been a guest yet on the show.
Which is ridiculous. How did that happen, man? We got to figure that out, man. Yeah.
I know. We're going to have to get you on multiple times now to kind of get
Big A, I came home,
but,
man. I told Jocelyn as soon as I walked in, I sat there and thought about that. It's about a 4-hour drive from Nashville back to Kentucky. And I swear that was probably one of the top 5 groups of men I'd ever been around. And man, when you sent me that message and said, "Hey, man, I got this little event coming down. You need to come to it." I knew it was going to be good, but it was just awesome to see, 10 something guys get in a room and just connect for a couple of days and have instant relatability, instant rapport, instant trust, and to be able to talk about deep issues, man, talking about being a man, talking about being a business owner, talking about being husbands, and talking about being dads, and how all that intertwines, man. But it was good to be in a room of a bunch of honest people. And I was very thankful for that, man. I drove home just in total gratitude that I got to spend time at the summit. It was just one of the best masterminds I've been to, dude.
Yeah, man. I appreciate you being there. We learned a lot from you as well. So thank you. You always add a lot to the room, and we certainly do appreciate it. One of the things that we really wanted to dive into today is you've made some real hard choices over the course of your career.
Yeah.
And watching you develop over the years has been very inspirational to me, no kidding. And one of the things that you did, though, showing your family that relationships matter most, really tugs at the heartstrings. And I wanted you to share that story today with what developed in your life to take you out of a really solid job, right? It was right, solid. And then you made some transition. So take us there. Take us to that story where your life changed.
Yeah, man. You know, I'm a guy from Kentucky, man, born and raised, remain today. And, you know, growing up in Kentucky, my dad and mom, they did everything that we needed them to do. Never had a lot, but never knew we didn't have a lot. And, you know, my dad always told me, man, he goes, go be a school teacher. Go be a school teacher, man. If you go be a school teacher, you'll always have a job. They'll always need school teachers. So, you know, I listened to my dad. I went and became a school teacher. And, you know, for about a decade, man, I was a history teacher and a football coach in Southeast Kentucky. And, you know, I had an event happen in my life that really changed that trajectory. I mean, I was on a railroad track, bro, to my pension. I had ready to go. I was just looking for the next season. And I had 27 and a half seasons before I got to retire. And I was counting them down. I was 10 in. And, you know, I probably would actually still be a school teacher in Southeast Kentucky if something had not happened that really made me question what I was doing with my life and how it was affecting the relationship with my wife, my kids, my family, and everything else. One day I was getting ready to go to school. My wife, Jocelyn, was also a teacher at the time. She was an elementary school librarian. And like a lot of people with two, you know, people working in their families, we had daycares for our kids, but we didn't go to the same daycare. My daughter went to a facility for kids that were under 2 years old. And my son went to a place for kids 3 and up. It was like 2 different places in town. And Jocelyn always took my little girl, Anna Jo, to her daycare center. And I always took my son, Isaac. He was about 3 years old at the time. And one day, man, it was a cold winter day, kind of about this time of year. You know, it's about January right now in Kentucky, and it's cold outside. And I was trying to get Isaac inside to this daycare center. And he was fighting me, man. He was in a car seat. He was in a big puffy coat. And he kept saying, no, daddy, I want to stay with daddy today. And I was like, son, I got to get to work, man. I teach high school juniors. They will burn down the building or something else if I don't get to that place, man. Like, they got to have some adult supervision. And I'm fighting him. He's like, no, daddy, I want to stay with daddy. And I just could not get him out of the car seat. And out of nowhere, my son said, no, daddy, she scares me. And that kind of paused me for a minute. And I looked down at my son and I said, who scares you? And he told me one of the names of the ladies in his daycare center. And I said, why does she scare you? And my son looked at me and said, she locks me in a bathroom and turns out the lights. And of course, all kinds of red flags are going off in my head. I'll call every kind of fear and anxiety you could ever see come upon you came upon me in that minute. But I didn't know exactly what was happening. I couldn't really get much more out of him. We would find out later, weeks later, that there was a lot of horrific abuse going on in this daycare center. Now, it was nothing sexual or anything like that. It was punishing kids in torturous ways. Like, one lady was throwing people down on a floor and sitting on them with a beanbag chair and holding them there until they complied. My son, what we would find out later, what was happening to him was he would have potty training accidents. And this lady was taking him and locking him in a windowless, dark bathroom for hours at a time and just leaving him in there. Now, I didn't know this at this time. I just knew something was going wrong. So I tried to call my mom and dad. I tried to call Jocelyn. I tried to call my boss. I couldn't get a hold of anybody. So I actually, you know, I'm a new parent. I'm young. I didn't know really what was going on. I actually grabbed Isaac and drove him over to my daughter's daycare center. And I asked the lady there to watch Isaac while I ran to work and told him what was going on. You know, I was raised to be a great employee. I was raised to handle my responsibilities. I was responsible for other people's kids too. So I knew I needed to investigate this, but I needed to get to work and get that handled and then come back. So I went to work that day, man, and I ran inside, got my kids settled down, and I went down, and my main principal was not there, so my supervisor, the assistant principal, was there. And I went in, and I told her exactly what I just told you had happened. And, in this school district, it was after the school day had started. All the subs were out. There was really no time to call anybody. And I asked my boss, I said, can you watch my class? Can you let me go? I need to go and investigate this situation with my son. And she looked at me, and she asked me, is your son in immediate danger right now? Which is protocol if you have some kind of abuse situation in a school, right? And I said, well, no, not right now. He's in a different place, but I can't leave him there all day. I need to go figure out what's going on. It might be nothing, but I got to go figure this out. And she said, my agenda is really full today, Mr. Sams, and I just can't sit in your class and watch it. Look, I know your son needs you, but your job needs you too. And you're going to have to handle your personal problems after work. And, I was kind of like shocked at first, man. This was the person that signs my checks. This was my boss. This was my authority in my life. And, I do look back on it and remember feeling defeated and thinking, oh, man, I'm just going to have to stay here all day, and I'm just going to have to take care of this later. And I hope nothing's wrong. And but then, I had this feeling come over me that was just like, no, man, your son needs you, and you've got to get up and go to him right now. Nothing. This is not more important than him. Your job's not more. You've got to get up and go right now. And I told my boss, I said, hey, listen, that is unacceptable. And what happens if I leave? And she said, well, you could be written up or fired. You can't just leave a class full of juniors all day. And I just said, well, that's a chance I'm going to have to take. And I got up and I left. And I went home and to get my son and to investigate what was going on. And, on that drive home, there was a lot of fear in me. I was like, oh my gosh, what if this is nothing? What if I get home? How am I going to explain to my wife that we've lost half our income? And it was a hunch. This is a 3-year-old who's telling me something that might not even be anything. But then I also felt a lot of anger, man. I was really, really mad at myself in that moment because I realized that I had made an awful trade. I had made a trade for a paycheck and security and for pension and for retirement and health insurance and all that stuff that we get from our jobs. I had made that trade, but in that trade, I had given someone the impression that they had so much control over me that the job that they gave me was more important than my child. And it was kind of in that car that day, man, I made a decision, Big A. I said, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to go find another way. I've got to find something where I don't have to ask permission to be there for my kids. I can be home for my wife. I can make enough money to support my family, and I'm not going to give up my freedom for a paycheck. So that was kind of the moment that led me down the rabbit hole of where I kind of ended up today.
Shane, do you know how many listeners are listening to this story right now? And it may not be to that degree, their child may not be in danger, but they despise what they're doing.
Yeah,
they hate their job. They've got the mortgage. They've got the car payment. They've got the health insurance, and they are strapped to that location. You help people flip their lifestyles. This is what I love. So that day you made a decision. Relationships matter most. I'm his dad. I'm going to do the right thing, regardless of what it cost me. And I love that. I love that you took it upon yourself to do that. So you left there, reality set in. You're like, okay, what am I going to do now? Okay, big boy, you made this big decision.
I did not lose my job. Thank goodness. They did. Now I got rode up though. Good. I got rode up. They did put me down and they rode up. But I realized something in that as I was so frustrated and I started looking at everything in my life, and I realized that income equals freedom. That's what I really realized. I knew the thing that people get into when they have the good job, they have the paycheck, or they have the insurance, or they have what everything in the world tells them is good. But what they don't realize is they're giving up choices. A lot of people don't have autonomy. They don't have freedom, and they don't have choices because even though they make their money, they don't control their money. Right? Someone else gives them the check. Someone else sets the rules. Someone else gives them 13 days off if you earn them over 6 months, right? And that was when I realized I've got to be able to take control of my income if I'm ever going to be able to do this. Now, I tried a few things, tried some things offline. I had all kinds of crazy ideas, but none of them really panned out. And then I discovered one day I was out on my lawnmower mowing my grass, man. I was just cutting my grass, driving it around, and I was listening to podcasts about business. I thought, well, business people make money. Maybe I can go make some money with business. But this was a podcast. It was called the Smart Passive Income Podcast with Pat Flynn. And it was a podcast about online business. Pat had been an architect, and he had started a blog. And he had created this study guide for architects to pass their licensing exam. And that dude, he had a friend of his teach him how to do this. He saved the study guide as a PDF, put a PayPal button on his website, and he said, if you give me $20, I'll send you this knowledge. I'll send you this document, this wisdom via email, and you'll be able to go out and pass this test. And that cat launched this thing, dude, and he got over 400 people in the first month to pay him $20. He made over $7,000 in a single month. And Big A, I about flipped my lawnmower upside down, man. I about lost my mind. I thought, oh my gosh, like, that's it, man. We all have these things we know, these things we love, these wisdoms that we can put out in the world and help people with. And we can put it out on the internet. And on the internet, there's 8 billion people. I only needed 100 people to pay me $50 to make $60,000 a year. 100 people, $50 a month is $5,000 a month, $60,000 a year. I was like, my goodness, there's 8 billion people. I can be wrong 99.999999% of the time. This is an online business thing. So I got really excited, and I went out and tried to start my own online business. I thought, I'm going to be like this Pat guy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to take control of my income by starting an online business. And as many entrepreneurs know, it ain't that easy, man. I got out there and I was a miserable failure, bro. Like I didn't get anything online. I couldn't do nothing. I tried a website where I was like a dad blogger, and nobody cared about me being a dad blogger. I tried this crazy website where it was called Toddler Apocalypse. And I just took pictures of my kids doing stupid stuff. Goodness. And then I would post them online. I'd tell a funny story. And I was like, that's it. That's my ticket to millions. Well, nobody ever came to that website. Nobody did anything. So I tried a couple niche sites. Like I tried to write reviews for products. That was stupid. Nobody cared about my reviews. And nobody cared about my Black & Decker coffee maker or whatever it was I was reviewing that week. And I just tried. And it got like really frustrating. And Jocelyn was actually getting not mad, but just like, hey, I think you've stumbled upon something kind of like a scam or something. Like you need to give this up. And man, I almost did. I almost quit. And then I was listening to another podcast. This is why you got to listen to podcasts, people. I was listening to another podcast. It was called Niche Pursuits. And they talked about putting Google ads on your website. And just if you could get traffic, people would come click links and give you money, right? It would give you commission. So I did this. I started a website based more on something that I knew. It was called U.S. History Worksheets. So I started giving away free worksheets, and I thought, well, maybe history teachers will find this. They'll come get this worksheet, and they'll accidentally click a Google ad, and I'll get $1 or something. And one night I was like, legit, man. It was one of those times where you're like praying to God, and you're like, all right, God, this is it. Something shows up now, or I'm just doing something else. Yeah, we've all been there, right? We've all been there before. Oh yeah. And I'm like, God, you got to give me a sign, man. I need a mustard seed or something, because I can't do this anymore, man. I'm failing miserably. And that night, man, every night I always check those Google ads. There was a 0 in my account, and I was sitting on my bed real late at night. Jocelyn was reading a book. And I hit refresh. And when the screen refreshed, instead of a 0, there was 11 cents. There was a dime and a penny. Like someone had clicked an ad. And y'all, I thought it was like Texas Gold, Texas Tea, man. It was like the hillbillies. I went crazy, man. And like I showed Jocelyn, and she realized, we talked about it, and we were like, wow, if it can be 11 cents, well, what if 11 million people clicked 11 cents? What if it was $11? What if it was $1,100? Like that's clearly like you can create things online and money can come back. Like you can get people to pay attention to it. So that's when we started really breaking down and studying what other people were doing. And we realized that almost everyone that was successful online was taking things that they already loved or had already learned or had already lived through an experience. And they were taking those valleys they had walked through and the lessons they had learned, and they were packaging them out into the world to solve problems for other people and help them get through the valley faster. So we started looking inventory. What can we do? And we landed on, I was a football coach. Jocelyn was a librarian. So Jocelyn actually started a blog for librarians, just like other people had started blogs for architects. And she started making lesson plans for those librarians. They could buy them and they could use them in their classrooms, so they could have lesson plans every day, but never have to plan any lessons at home. So they could go home and be with their kids. And then I started making playbooks for football coaches. Now, I was not a state championship football coach or anything. I was just trying to help people have winning seasons so they could go home happy more Friday nights than not. That was my whole goal. So we started doing that, and we built these little bitty blogs, these little bitty followings. And in, let's see, what was it? July or August of 2012, I believe, we had just enough people where we were like, hey, if we sold you something, would you buy it? And the librarians said yes. These coaches said yes. And we said, prove it. I don't trust anybody till they vote with their wallet. You can tell me you're going to buy it all day, but until you sign the dotted line, I don't believe you. And so we sent out a button. It was just a PayPal button. And, in the very first month, we got 50 people to give us $50, and we made $2,500 in a single month with elementary librarian lesson plans and football playbooks, man. And we thought, oh my gosh, like that's how much that was my take home pay, Big A. That was my take home pay as a school teacher in Southeast Kentucky. And we thought, well, wow, if we can just do this is amazing. But then it was 3,000. Then it was 4,000. And then in November of 2012 was the first year we made over $5,000 with our online business in a single month. That was more money than we had made as school teachers in Kentucky. But we were still working full time while we were doing this. So we had like 10 grand that month, dude. And it was like, that was the best Christmas we ever had, bro. It was like, my little girl was like, Daddy, can we go see Santa Claus? And I'm like, he's going to bring the whole bag this year, y'all. It's fine. It's all good, honey. It is all, we might go see him. That's exactly right, dude.
That's right.
And, and we really started thinking like, wow, we might be able to replace our income and quit our jobs. And we kept working full time and working on our business. Fast forward to the next summer, July of 2013. We made $15,000 for the first time in a single month because it's numbers. It's just a numbers game. There's 100,000 librarians. If you can get 300 of them to pay you $50, that's $15,000. Yeah. And then August we made $36,000 in a single month, and that was bonkers. Like nobody ever told me growing up I was allowed to make that much money in a single month. So that's when we decided, like, hey, man, like, we don't have to work for anybody anymore. We don't have to ask permission for days off work anymore. We can just go out there and create this value in the world and make our own living. And it was pretty sweet, man. In the same office that my boss told me, I know your son needs you, but your job needs you too. I got to slide my letter of resignation over, and I got to say, I don't need your job anymore. And we've been full-time online business owners ever since. And, we could have rode off into the sunset, guys. I mean, we really could have. I mean, we could have just stayed there. I mean, there's always going to be football. There's always going to be a library somewhere. There's always going to be history lesson plans. We sell those now too. But something happened. God had a different plan for us. Joss and I had started a small group at our church about that time. It was for people like us, parents in their 30s and 40s who had school-age kids. And man, I went to church that Sunday morning and I said, hey guys, just wanted you guys to know we need some prayer. Need you guys to, our prayer warrior team. We need you to step up here. I was hoping somebody in here could pray over me and Jocelyn. We didn't want to tell nobody ahead of time because it's a small town and everybody would have got, the word would have got out. But we quit our jobs last week. We both walked in and quit our jobs last week, and we're full-time online. And I just want to see if somebody would pray for me today. Y'all, everyone in that room, their jaw opened wide, and it was like 30 seconds, and nobody said a word, dude. I mean, like, and I was like, all right, I'll just pray for us. You all pray along. And I prayed, and I leaned down, I prayed for us. And everyone asked us, like, what are you doing? They thought they were going to have an intervention. They thought, like, we were getting divorced or on drugs or somebody was crazy. And like, we're like, no, guys, it's really okay. I promise. And, but one person in that room didn't say, what are you doing? They said, how did you do that? And how can I do it? Her name was Lindsay. And Lindsay told us, she says, I have a dream, man. I want to homeschool my kids, but we can't afford to do it on one salary. But this online game business sounds like something I might be able to do. Could you show me how to do it? And we did. And about 3 or 4 months later, she quit her job. And that's when we realized we had like a unique outlook on this, a unique perspective of how we became entrepreneurs as, you know, working families, raising kids, and just looking for a different thing than, you know, going out and having the millions of dollars and Instagram lifestyles and all that stuff. Like, we thought we could help real families. And about that time, that guy, Pat Flynn, had become my first coach, my first mentor. And he really encouraged us to go out and use our gifts to help other people. So we launched a business called Flipped Lifestyle. And very first month, man, we had 120 people show up for our program. It was unbelievable, the response to it. And it's just grown like crazy ever since, to the point we actually sold our other company, elementarylibrarian.com. We sold that company, shut everything else down because it was just getting so big we couldn't manage both of them at the time. And that's what I've been doing for the last, since 2014, man. I've just been helping other people find and use their God-given gifts to change their life, take control of their income, find freedom, give themselves choices, and start build and grow online businesses, man, like we did.
Shane, I love how you so often, and I guess this is probably not a true statement, but it feels like this. There's a lot of talking heads out there that want to tell you how to do things, but actually have never done it or like found a sliver of success. I love how you guys did the sweat, put the time and made it, figured out how it worked.
Yeah.
And then you went and taught other people how to do it.
Yeah, man. It's out there, man. You know, we always say, I always tell people, I practice what I preach and I drink my own Kool-Aid. And like even now, man, like I still have side businesses, and you know, we use our methods to make sure that they're working. We're always testing, but yeah, it's hard to authentically teach something that if you haven't done it, you know.
How has it? One of the questions you probably get this question is like, is it different now than it was? You started in what, 2014, 12, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
So is it vastly different now? Like, you tell that story and there's a lot of like, wow, that sounds great, but man, that was like 6-8 years ago. Like, I can't do it. Like, that doesn't even, like, is opportunity still there online in a similar way?
It's actually 100 times better now. And that's not like hyperbole. Like when we started out, like you had to figure everything out because there were no tools or resources. Now we have platforms that you click buttons and you have websites, you know? And the principles behind it. See, that was where I was screwing up in the first part. The reason my first 3 businesses failed is because I was chasing fads. I was chasing the things that said were cool, right? And I wasn't looking behind that at what the like underlying principles, the evergreen principles of it all were. Because in the end, here's the only way online business works. It's the only way all business works, really, when you think about it. The first layer of it is you have to have a problem that you can solve. Like, right. And now how you solve it, that might evolve, right? We're going to have different tools to deliver solutions, but how you solve a problem, that's the first thing you got to do. So we had to look at things in our life and say, how do I solve this problem? So I had a playbook. When I was a football coach, I used to coach college football. I was there for about 2 or 3 years. And I decided I wanted to have a family and I wanted time for my family. So I needed to go coach high school football. So I got a head coaching job. I was 0-10 my first year as a football coach. That's not fun to lose every game. So I had to figure out, how do I win? Everybody else had all these big, fast football players, and I had all these guys that were just slow as molasses and couldn't remember left from right. So I had to figure out how to win with these guys. That's all I had, right? So I had to solve that problem over about a 5 or 6 year period to go 2-8, 3-7, 9-8-2, right? Start winning games. Never like going for the state title. Just survive and go home happy on Friday night and get up Saturday not feeling like you're terrible, right? And that was the problem that I chose to solve. I said, this is a problem I can solve. I can win with less talented players. I have a defense that works really well for them. I'm going to find other coaches who are having losing seasons. I'm not going after the guys trying to win state titles. And I'm going to solve this problem for that person. Find me someone that's 4-6, and next year they'll be 7-3. Let's do this. And because I knew the problem I could solve for someone, all I then had to figure out was, how do I get it to them? That's just delivery. Then I had to figure out, so once you have that, once you know what problem you can solve for someone and you know how you're going to solve it, maybe with content or something that you create, or maybe even just working with people one-on-one, then you just have to figure out, how do I get people to know about this, right? So you create content. We create podcasts. We create blogs. We create YouTube videos. We create things out in the world. And it's not just online business that works this way. Think about it. If you're trying to get a sale in your business, you're going to go build a relationship and you have to deliver content to that person to tell them what you do. If you can't deliver that correctly, you're going to be bad at sales. If you don't have a billboard on the highway or an ad on the Facebook page, no one's going to ever know about you, right? So once we have a problem we can solve for a person, we create some kind of content out in the marketplace to show, to build audience and attention around that. And then we sell it. And that's what we did, like just over and over and over again. That's the same now as it was back then. Businesses are not built on Facebook or TikTok or YouTube or anything else. Those are billboards. Those are channels to show people your stuff. The fundamentals are consistently create content, be prolific. You're getting up every day and you're working hard to get other people to know about your stuff and serve your people. And then relentlessly solve a problem that you can solve for someone else. How we show that to people is going to change. Like we're on this thing right now called, what's this thing we're recording on? Riverside FM, right? I used to record my podcast on Skype. Y'all remember Skype? And we're still recording a podcast. That's the same. We're creating content,
Yeah, different tools.
So that's kind of what we look at it more as, is like, it's the evergreen concepts of what we're doing. The tools might evolve a little bit, but that's why we have communities and coaches and other masterminds and people like you guys have at ISI or we have in our thing. Like it's just so we're around people so we can keep up with the trends. But the fundamentals are never going to go away. And online business now, man, dude, it was so hard to start an online business 10 years ago. I had to learn HTML code and things would get hacked and things would break. And now it's like you pay $100 a month for a platform that does it all, So I think it's the best time to get in it since we've been doing it.
Shane, did you ever see this monetizing to the way it has unfolded for you? And was there times that you had to tweak the way you were going? Did you set it and go? What would you say to people today about tweaking it or modifying it? Or how do you stay relevant with this, you as an individual?
I think you stay relevant by knowing your mission. I think the people that try to stay relevant, the people that try to the people that were the cryptocurrency experts 2 years ago, and now all of a sudden they're AI experts on their Twitter profiles. Those are the people that I think struggle the most at becoming relevant. We have a core value in our company. It's called consistent, prolific, relentless. Like we have a mission. We're going to consistently do X. We're going to be prolific. We're going to do it daily, and we're going to be relentless. We're not going to stop when it gets hard. And I know my mission. My mission is to help 100,000 families find and use their God-given gifts to make money online. That is my mission. That is what we do. That's how we stay relevant, right? And how we do that is we tell stories. And that the best way you can ever become relevant is to tell your story. Like you asked me earlier today before we got on here, is there anything off limits? No. My story is never off limits because it was gifted to me by God to go out and tell other people as testimony. Yeah. And then now we base our whole business on telling our students' story. Like that is our marketing. I bring my students on my podcast because their stories are all different and rich and just amazing as mine. And as long as I keep getting them results, that last result's going to be just as relevant as the one before it. So that's how we do that. I never could have imagined that we would make the money that we can make now. The scale is ridiculous online. And also the security. This is another thing I want to harp on because it's easy for me to talk about money and how much money we make and things like that. But what's better about online business is the security of it, the floor that you can create in your life. Like I don't worry anymore about money, not because I have a lot of it, because I understand the fundamentals of how online business can work. If I only need 200 people to give me $50 a month for value that I'm providing through courses, communities, coaching, whatever I'm doing for them, think about that. That's $10,000 a month. That's $120,000 a year. That's a six-figure income. You are immediately in the upper percentiles of the world and the United States in income. Now, in a job, if you have one job paying you $10,000 a month, guys, if the bills go bad, if someone makes a decision, one decision can lose the whole income. But in any given month, I'm going to have like 10 people maybe quit my membership, but I still might have 190 people left, right? That's my floor now. You see that? I can just go get 10 more people somewhere out of the 8 billion in the planet, and I have safety and security, and I'm good there. So when I talk about money, I always want to talk about the security and stability of the floor you can create. There is no upper limit. I mean, if you can get 1,000 people to give you $1,000, that's $1 million, people, right?
Right.
But there's no upper limit. But when you're talking about money and staying relevant, it's just keep serving people, keep telling stories, keep creating success stories in your student. Make that a number one priority. And then look at the floors that you can create to give your family the safety and security they need. And then the money, man, the money is whatever you want to do with it. I mean, you can push this thing as far as you can go. I mean, I hang around with people now that talk about goals that have B's in front of them. And that scares me to death. But I'm like, yeah, you got a point. That's possible. So to focus on your security, but replace your income, create stability, create a community that's sustaining itself or around your products and services. After that, you can set those big, huge goals, but you don't got to be a millionaire or billionaire to make a really good life for your family and leave a legacy.
Shane, the barrier to entry is pretty low, isn't
Yeah.
it? I mean, for people that are wanting to get started. Talk to us about that. What does that look like for the majority of your students?
Yeah, I mean, the barrier to entry basically comes down to this. Like, one, are you willing to roll up your sleeves and open your wallet? I don't ever want anyone to say that I'm saying this is easy, but it is pretty simple. I mean, you got an idea, you got a problem you can solve, you got a person that you want to serve or a group of people. Now you go build the thing. The cost of doing business for an online business is probably less than $500 a month. Like, you're going to need a couple tools, but really all you need is something like a platform like Kajabi or Kartra or something like that. Can you have a website? Can you take a payment? Can it host your product? All these platforms do that. So it's not like you're starting a pizza shop or a Chick-fil-A franchise, right? Like, you got to have a good idea. You got to know how you're going to fulfill that solution, and then go out and spend $150 on the platform, another $200, $300 in coaching or something to get you started, courses. And then that's pretty much it, man. I mean, there's almost no barrier to entry. One of our ideas, I don't know if I've ever told you this, Big A. Me and Jocelyn had an idea to quit our jobs that we were going to start a clothing store, a consignment clothing store in Southeast Kentucky. We was going to sell other people's used clothes, okay? You wouldn't think that would be an expensive business to run, right? Okay. But Lord have mercy, man. I went out and started looking at rent. That was a couple $1,000. I started looking at the bills. Well, that place I was renting was so run down that it didn't have good insulation. So that was going to be high. And then we started looking at racks and cash registers. It was going to be like $7,000 a month to open the door to sell other people's used clothing, right? Like, the cost of doing that, any kind of business like that, was so out of reach for us as it is for many W-2 employees. So online business gives you a path once you understand like how to deliver product through courses or coaching or build communities and do things like masterminds, whatever it is you build it around, even e-commerce stuff. You basically just need to be able to get on the internet. And, you can get on the internet with a free YouTube account right now. You can set up a PayPal account and invoice people for money. And all of a sudden you're online. Like, that's it. So the barrier to entry is how bad you want it. Yeah. That's about it at this point in history.
I remember when I started my first retail store, we had hundreds of thousands of dollars that I didn't have that we had to borrow.
Yeah, man.
And then we opened another store and we had literally millions of dollars tied up over the years in buildings and inventory. In this business, there is no inventory,
no.
Right? You don't have it. You got that link and you send them the link, or it's on Kajabi and you host it on some platform. It is an amazing resource.
Yeah.
And that's why I wanted you on, to encourage people today that you don't have to do what you're doing.
Yeah.
What would be marching orders for people? They're sitting there listening to this interview right there, and they're like, I don't even know where to start.
Yeah.
What are the 3 things that they need to do in order to get started? And then share with me how they can contact you.
The first one is always a mindset shift. I think a lot of people, we have created a vision of what an entrepreneur is, thanks to Shark Tank and a business owner and all this stuff. And some people I think might think, well, I can't do something like that. I'm not going to make the next Sponge Daddy Sponge and get the deal with Mark Cuban or whatever. And you don't have to do that, right? All you got to do is figure out a problem that you can solve. So there is a mindset shift. And there's a scripture that I love. It's 1 Peter 4:10. And it says, each of you has one of God's many wonderful gifts to be used in the service of others. So use your gifts well. And there's a lot of other verses around that I could get down into, but there's a lot of verses in the Bible that clearly indicate that God gave each of us skills, talents, experience, gifts that we can use in the service of others for our income. right? To serve. Serving other people does not mean I'm just on a mission trip and I'm going to build a house for free. That's not what it means. We serve each other. If we have a deli, we serve each other with our gifts. If we have a barbershop, we serve each other with our gifts. If we have wisdom, knowledge, and things and passions that we can share with others, those are gifts from God through our life that we can use to help other people with. And we get paid for it. The worker deserves their wages. So I think the mindset shift that I always encourage everybody is to realize, man, listen, you have a gift. I never would have guessed that my gift was going 0 and 10. That was my gift. That was a gift from God. It made me figure out how to get to 6 and 5, right? And that allowed me to go out and help other coaches do that and help them as well. So that's the first thing, is you've got to realize you have your gift. Now, once you have a gift, you have to go out and you have to coalesce these experiences, these things we loved and that we've learned, that we've lived through, into an actual idea. We call it the idea. That's the problem you're going to solve for people, who you're going to solve it for, right? So like, for example, I'll give you an example. We got a guy in our community. His name's Kenny Troiano. Okay. And I think I've told you this story before, but I'll tell you, your listeners. Kenny Troiano came up to me at a live event and he said, man, I'm just not sure what my gifts are. And I said, well, tell me something that you love and that you know about. And he said, well, man, I love chickens. I love chickens, man. I raise chickens in my backyard. And I'm really good at breeding chickens, keeping them healthy. You know, sometimes in small environments, you get some problems. And I would just love to tell other people how to raise backyard chickens. But do you think anybody would pay me for that? And I told Kenny, I said, Kenny, I'm from Southeast Kentucky. That's where the first Kentucky Fried Chicken was. And Colonel Sanders made a whole lot of money cooking and eating chicken. So I bet somebody's got to raise those chickens. So yes, let's go out and do that. And he said, all right, let's do it. So he launches a podcast on how to raise chickens in your backyard if you're a suburban farmer, right? And he has a membership where he has courses and he coaches people like on Q&As and stuff on how to raise backyard chickens. And that dude's got over 200 members and he makes $96,000 a year because he solved a problem. If you want to be a backyard chicken farmer and all your chickens die, you got a problem and you need help to solve that problem. So he realized this was a worthy gift, something he didn't identify as a gift. He thought it was just something he liked. And then he turned that into a product that would solve a problem for somebody else. So that's the second thing, is figure out your idea and figure out how it solves problems for other people. And then the third thing is you got to figure out how to get it out to the world, right? You got to tell other people about it. We are all marketers. We are all salespeople. That's the way the world works now for any business, any job. Even if you're just putting in resumes, you're marketing yourself. So you got to figure out how to get some attention out there in the world, but you don't need a lot of attention. Me and my wife replaced our income off less than 1,000 people on an email list. So, you know, you get 1,000 true people that want to learn what you do in the whole world out of 8 billion. That's probably 100 people that would pay you every month to hang out and solve their problems. So that's what I would say, is shift your mindset. You do have a gift somewhere inside you. Once you realize that, find your idea and turn it into a problem that you can solve for other people. You can make it into a product later. Don't worry about that part right now. And then 3, start telling people, man. Telling people your story and telling people how you can help them. You got to be seen to sell things. You do those 3 things and you're on your way. That's the first step. Yeah. That's the biggest hurdles, man, is just start talking about it. Like people have great ideas, Big A, and they get to the point where they're about to turn on the mic or turn on the camera and they stop. So, oh my gosh. Man, just get over that fear point, dude.
Shane, you've helped so many people over the years. It's been so nice to watch you do that. How can the audience connect with you and learn more about Flip Lifestyle?
Yeah, man. I mean, I'd love for everybody, you're listening to a podcast. That means you like podcasts. So check out my podcast. We have a great podcast, comes out every Tuesday. We bring real members from our community on. Me or my coaches coach them on air. Sometimes I'll just spout off for 20 minutes about whatever I've been reading that week, in philosophy or the Bible or just something that got on my nerves. We have lots of success stories. We have lots of people come on and tell what's working for them. And we also answer questions every week about online business. So that comes out every Tuesday. You can check it out on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And all you have to do, if you guys want to, is go to fliplifestyle.com/Big A. flippedlifestyle.com/Big A. That's for Big Aaron Walker over there, the host of this podcast, Big A. And I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll pull a course out of my training. It will help them find and use their gifts, but it'll help them figure out their idea. And we'll throw an idea training up there for everybody that's listening to the podcast. They can check that out, and it'll by the end of that video, they'll have an idea that they can look for. And I'll teach them also how to research that idea online to make sure that it can make money online. Every idea is a good idea, but it's a great idea when it can make you money. And so we'll help them figure that out too. I got a 3-step process we use to help people research their ideas, man. We'll put it out in the world.
Man, what a blessing. What a gift. Thank you so much, Shane. Thank you for being with us today. I'm excited to hear the success stories that come as a result of this interview. Thank you for being with us at View from the Top. Have a good one.
Hey, man, thank you for having me here. And I'm glad you got your podcast rolling here, baby, because I'm going to listen to it every week. I've been waiting on this a long time, dude.
Good deal. Thanks, Shane. Have a good one.
Okay, well, did I steer you wrong? I told you at the very beginning, buckle up, because this guy is a bundle of energy. And man, what an opportunity it is for you to implement those 3 strategies that he talked about. He told you exactly what to do. Deal with that mindset first, right? Really understand how you can overcome that upper limit challenge. And then decide what is it that you can solve? What problem in the world can you solve? And then go out and market that product. It's really simple, right? It's not difficult. It can be very difficult if you make it that way, but he lays it out in such a succinct way that you too can go out there and win. And I want you to win because I want you too to have that view from the top.
Hey, everybody, before we close the show out today, I just want to, listening to this episode today with Shane Sams and how Big A just closed us out, I just want to remind us all, we actually have a pretty cool resource. If you're trying to think about the idea and what you want to do with your business and how you're getting started and really figuring out for yourself, is this what you want to do? We have an awesome resource called the What Do I Want worksheet. Just go to viewfromthetop.com/resources. That's viewfromthetop.com/resources. You can click on download it right there. It's a What Do I Want worksheet. Going to help you figure out your next step. So do it now.